Hello guys, welcome to 3 Lessons with Shale. Today we are going to read the book of 1 Kings chapter 20 and we're going to read verses 32, 33 and 34. So before we go into it, let me give you a brief summary of what transpired before those 3 verses. It's about King Ben-Hadad of Syria and King Ahab of Israel. So King Ben-Hadad sent messengers to King Ahab saying he's coming to collect their loveliest wives, their children, their silver, and their gold. King Ahab said, no problem. Then King Ben-Hadad sent messengers again to say, after he's done doing that, then he's going to search King Ahab's house and that of his servants. That's going to take whatever he wants from their houses. So King Ahab consulted with the people and the elders, saying, okay, this is what King Ben-Hadad has said, though. What do I do? And they advised him to say no. So King Ahab said no. So that is so, of course, together with his 32 kings, King Ben-Hadad gathered 32 kings with himself to fight Israel. Of course, he was defeated. He went to battle again with Israel. He was defeated again, that he had to flee. He had to flee. So he fled into one cave like that. So that's the summary of what transpired before these 3 verses. So let's go into the verses now. So verse 32 says, so they wore sackcloth around their waist and put ropes around their heads and came to King of Israel and said, your servant Ben-Hadad says, please let me live. And he said, is he still alive? He is my brother. And that's King Ahab saying, is he still alive? He is my brother. That's calling Ben-Hadad his brother. So verse 33 says, now the men were watching closely to see whether any sign of mercy will come from him. And they quickly grasped at his word and said, your brother Ben-Hadad. So he said, go bring him. Then Ben-Hadad came out to him and he had him come up into the chariot. Verse 34. So Ben-Hadad said to him, the cities which my father took from your father, I will restore. And you may set up marketplaces for yourself in Damascus, as my father did in Samaria. Then Ahab said, I will send you away with this treaty. So he made a treaty with him and sent him away. Now, if you look at these 3 verses now, Ben-Hadad came to make peace with Ahab, so Ahab will not kill him. That is the summary of these 3 verses. Ben-Hadad sent messengers to King Ahab that they should go and tell King Ahab that King Ahab should not kill him. Now, King Ahab now said, oh, is he still alive? Okay, it's my brother. And King Ahab made a treaty, peace treaty with Ben-Hadad. And King Ahab sent King Ben-Hadad away. Now, the 3 lessons to learn from these 3 verses go like 1. Your enemy is always watching you. People who don't like you, your adversary, they are always watching you. In other words, Satan is watching you because he is our main adversary. He only uses our friends, our family, our colleagues at work to attack us. He is our number 1 enemy and he is watching. Now, if you look at this, now it says, now the men were watching closely to see whether any sign of mercy will come from him. And they quickly grasped at his word and said, your brother Ben-Hadad. Why did they say your brother? Because King Ahab himself had called him brother. So, in whatever we do in life, in whatever actions we take in life, we should always be conscious of that fact that some people are watching us. Our enemies are watching us, waiting for us to sleep so they can capitalize on it. As Christians, as believers, Satan is always watching us, waiting for us to go into sin so he can use that to penetrate into our lives, to attack us. We may still be born again, but if you fall into sin, we're only giving the devil an avenue to attack us. Somebody comes to you to talk to you about something, about someone, mind how you speak, mind what you say, mind how you act, how you react. We should always be mindful of those things. Why? Because they are watching. And once we fall into their trap, they will use the opportunity to attack us, to get at us. So as believers, we have to be conscious of that fact that the devil is always watching, always. That's why we should be prayerful, always, that God should help us. Because it's the only God that can help us to live our Christian lives. We cannot do it on our own. It is not possible. The devil is an ancient. We know that it's at least 6,000 years old. I don't think my great-great-grandfather is 6,000. Yeah, the second lesson to learn from these 3 verses is we should always mind our words and actions. Like I said in the first lesson, that the enemy is watching you, so you should be careful of how we say things, how we do things, how we act, how we react. So that's the second lesson. First one is the enemy is watching. Second lesson now is be mindful of your words and your actions. People will capitalize on it. People will use it against you. There's a reason they say when they want to arrest people, they say, be careful what you say because it can be used against you in the court of law. There's a reason they say that. If you have not said anything, nobody can use it against you. If you have not acted in a way, nobody can come and say, but you did this yesterday, but you did that yesterday. No. Silence sometimes may not mean yes. It may not mean no. It depends on the context. If you don't know what to say, keep quiet. If you are going through things, you are sick, and you say, this sickness, I hope this sickness doesn't kill me. You don't say things like that. The devil will use it to attack. He will use it against you in the courts of heaven to attack you. Why? Because we have said this sickness will kill you. If you don't have enough words of faith to say, don't say anything. So we should always be careful what we say, what we do, where we go to, how we react, how we treat people, how we treat others. We should be careful. In this case now, King Ahab called Ben-Hadad his brother. He did not know that those people were actually watching him to see if he would say anything, any word of mercy that they would use against him. If he says, now the men were watching closely to see whether any sign of mercy will come from him. They were watching. And what happened? He said, my brother. And they used it against him and he couldn't go back on his words. So lesson number 3, we should be discerning. As Christians, we should be discerning. That's why they say give God this discerning spirit. So we should always be discerning. We should know when to do things, what not to do. The Bible says we should test all spirits. If you are discerning, you should know if this person is a good person, if this person has the right motive, if this person has the right spirit, if this person has your best interest at heart. Now, in this case now, God had designed King Ben-Hadad for death, for destruction. God has marked him for destruction. God wanted to destroy him. And God himself brought Ben-Hadad to Ahab. But Ahab was not discerning enough. Ahab let him go. And Ahab was punished for it. So if you read the whole chapter, King Ahab was punished for why? Because Ben-Hadad was marked for destruction by God. That was why God brought him to King Ahab in the first place. But what did King Ahab do? He was not discerning. He let him go. It's the same in our daily lives. There are people that, it is good to help. We help people. That is what we do as believers. But sometimes, in some cases, we should ask God, do I help this person? We've seen real life stories when you give people money and that's the beginning of your problem. You take people into your home, that's the beginning of your problems. You give people money on the streets, that's the beginning of your problems. So as believers, we should be discerning. That's why we should be in tune with the Holy Spirit always. So if you want to do it, the Holy Spirit will tell you, okay, don't do it. The Holy Spirit will tell you, okay, pray before you do it. The Holy Spirit will tell you, okay, don't do it directly. Ask someone else to do it. So we should be discerning as believers always. And it's not something we can do on our own. It's only the Holy Spirit that can help us to do it. So we should always pray to God that God should help us to be discerning. He should give us the discerning spirit so we can test our spirit to know if this spirit is from God or not. People will come and give you prophecy. Do you know if that prophecy is from God? Or just that prophet was sleeping last night, was thinking about you before he fell asleep and he dreamt about you and he came and said, God has shown me that this person is your husband, this person is your wife. No. If we don't have the right relationship with the Holy Spirit, if we don't pray, like I said earlier, that we should always pray for eyes that see, ears that hear. So we can identify the voice of the Holy Spirit when we hear it. So if somebody comes and gives us a prophecy, somebody comes and say, this job is for you, that person is your wife, is your husband, do this, do that. You should be able to go to the Holy Spirit yourself and ask. And those things take practice. They don't just happen overnight. So you make mistakes and all that, but over time, you will learn to hear the voice of God for yourself. So nobody can deceive you. Nobody can say he has heard from God for you when you yourself have not heard from God. You know, all those things that we should take into account as believers so our journey in this our Christian race can be smooth. So I hope you have learned a thing or two from this video. So please do not forget to like, to comment, to share with your friends and family, and to subscribe. I'll see you again next week. God bless you.